Well, hello there. I am exhausted, but I just got this urge to pop on and say hello and ask this certain question, um, which is if you watched my recent video on what is astrology and depiction of the spiritual path, and you saw me talking about fractals and how we're each kind of like experiencing the perspective from that piece of the fractal. And so what we're looking out. And this is also why the concept of mirroring works. You know, if you've been watching my channel and you've been participating in my readings, you know that I'm really big on using the concept of mirrors. You know that I say, if you see it outside of yourself, it's in you too. You know that I might not have said it in those terms because that can really upset people. But the reason that we're kind of like resonating with the thing we see, whether we like it or not, is because we are tuned in based on the part of it that's tuned to it within us, in our energy. So if you have an emotional charge for something, for or against, that is the anchor that's causing your attention to focus on that, right? Because like an example that I've used before, I think I've heard Tony Robbins use this example too, but it definitely worked for me. This example brought my attention and awareness to this concept very easily, so I'm going to repeat it. So you know when you buy a new car, and all of a sudden that model of car, that color and model of car you see it everywhere. It's like you might have not thought that was a very popular car when you bought it, but all of a sudden it's the most popular car. You know, maybe not the most, depending on which car you have, but you know what I mean. It's like because your brain marked that as something important to you, because there was some sort of emotion associated with the purchase of that car, right? It was meaningful to you. Now your brain knows that it's an important thing to focus on, so that's why you're noticing it. Did everybody run out and buy that same car at the same time as you, and that's why you're noticing more of them? No. There were always that same amount of cars of those surrounding you, but when it became significant and important to you, when it was anchored into your energy as something significant to you, that's when you start noticing it in your reality, right? So we line up with what's in our energy. So as a piece of that fractal, that's why some people we really easily see ourselves in them. And some people we actually see them more as the things we don't like or the things we judge. And that is human nature when we use projection as a way to cope with an uncomfortable feeling. Because really it's us that has the judgment. It's us that's anchored in us the significance of whatever it is we're now seeing outside of us, right? It's always in us. It's always about us. Now, you can use this in other ways. It's like, okay, so I see this person. I don't like what they're doing. That's okay. You don't have to like what they're doing. But can you accept what they're doing, right? Can you accept that that's a thing that they do without taking it personal? That is where you know you got some work to do when you take it personal. Because what somebody else does, you can observe it and notice it, and it could not be a problem for you. You just move along your day. Maybe you notice that someone's really struggling. Okay? But when you start taking it personal on you, that's when you know that you've got something in you that you can balance out, that you can release yourself from being a hostage to that thing playing out in your reality over and over and over again like a broken record. And it's just a matter of acknowledging it, validating, like why is this a thing for you, accepting that it's there, and being present with how you feel. And it's your feeling. As long as you project it outside of you, as long as you put it on someone else, as long as it's out there, as long as it's them, as long as it's... you will never solve it. Because all you're doing is finding a placeholder for your pain. All of this, it's not comfortable, but all of this is freed by going within. All of this is freed by going within. Everything can be balanced out within us. So now, even if someone is doing something you don't like, it doesn't mean you have to like it, but you can also be above any strong emotion about it, right? You're not going to let it throw you under the bus or throw yourself under the bus and taking a fit or cry about it or anything, where it's like affecting you emotionally, making yourself a victim to somebody else's experience, making yourself a victim to something you have absolutely no control over, which is somebody else. So if you're trying to get control over somebody else because you don't like what they're doing, and so you have strong emotions and maybe you lash out at them, you say, why do you keep doing that? Sorry to laugh. You see, that the thing is, they might be in a soul contract with you to keep doing that until you get your shit together, until you look within yourself and resolve it in yourself. Because if this person goes out of your life or they stop doing it, they conform to what you've tried to control in them. How are you going to see that you're carrying a suitcase of a heavy burden? You're not going to, and then it's going to have to manifest into illness to get your attention, to make you slow down, to put you out of commission, to get you in stillness so that you can reflect on your life and how you feel and what you've been holding grudges for and all the things you took personally that weren't personal. None of it's personal. Anything anyone else is doing is not personal. It's personal. It's personal in the way that, like, it's in your reality, but it's personal in the way that it's like, how you feel about it is yours, and there's an indication there. That's as personal as it is. Like, if someone else is doing something and you're taking it personally, it's showing you that you have something in here taking it personally. But what other people do is not for us to take personally. It's their stuff. It's their experience. If it's directly affecting us, then we have an issue where I don't agree to be treated that way. Okay, what is my self-loving thing to do? Oh, perhaps remove myself from the situation, right? Because I can't change their behavior. Maybe first, it depends on who it is, you're going to have a conversation with them. You're going to say, hey, I don't like being treated this way. What's the deal? And maybe they're going to defend themselves on why they're acting that way, or to apologize and say they'll change their behavior. But it continues in a cycle, right? It's like, well, maybe that person is actually trying to poke you in something where you're not being quite reasonable. Or maybe that person has an issue within themselves and it's giving you an opportunity to actually prioritize your own self-care and take distance from that person. You have to discern these things in navigating this. But the mirror is so beneficial in order to do that. And you may have heard me mention the 7 Essene mirrors on YouTube. It's recorded by, or it's a recording of Greg Braden. And it was done a long time ago. It's 2 or 3 hours long, and he talks in a storytelling fashion about the 7 Essene mirrors. And there are 3 or 4 that are most common. And you'll find that, what you see in another person is either some sort of like what you are that you're denying in yourself, so on and so forth. But I came across this concept earlier on in my journey and used this concept alone for so much of my journey to make so much progress, because I started to realize anytime I was pointing my finger, anytime I was justifying something, anytime I was making an excuse, anytime I was being a victim to something, it was a roadmap to my healing, to my freedom, to my self-confidence, to my self-love, to my self-worth, to my knowing and being in this life what I came to be. It was breaking me out of restrictive, programmed in energies that I wanted to experience, because now I know what that's like, and that I wanted to get free of, because it's really nice to be free of. If someone in your life has become the object of your focus, look at the reason. What are they showing you? If that is not who you are in the moment, is it something that you didn't allow for yourself? Is it something that you judge? If that's not it, how do you feel in response to the story you're telling about that person? What does it make you feel? Oh, that person has something. They're very well off and everything was handed to them. And I feel angry that I didn't have that handed to me and I didn't get a fair shake. And they had some sort of privilege. Okay, that's your perspective of them. Now, how do you feel about that? That anger. Okay, be with that. Own that in yourself. Be the one who can love yourself even though you're angry. Because this is a reality, right? It may or may not be true, but from your perspective, it's true. So you're the one who has to be with the feeling that you're having in response to that. That will set you free. That right there, being present with the feeling that's anchoring in the story that you're telling about that person. That right there is a way to get free of that energy. That will continue looping and filtering your view until you do so. So if you don't see it in them, if they go away, you're going to see it in someone else. You're always going to see it outside yourself if you're not willing to see it in yourself. Because this is a hologram. Because this fractal view that you have is projecting out the life that you're living through the perspective that you have, through the energy that you're anchored in. And what you haven't gotten above and balanced out yet is going to be what makes up the reality that you live. So what are the feelings that you're having? What is the belief that you're living out when you notice somebody else? If it's not directly that you are that thing, or that that's something that you've denied for yourself, or that's something that you judge. If it's not those things, there are other angles that you can still use that same concept to free yourself with. So it's a very, very powerful tool and practice, and so worthwhile, and I would just highly recommend it. Yeah. So I was just watching a Jess Puckett, the Chaos Witch video on YouTube. If you are not familiar, Jess Puckett, is that still what she calls her channel? It switched to an ad, so I couldn't read it, but I believe it's Jess Puckett, Jesspuckett, the Chaos Witch. She is a really good reader. She's really good. Over the years, I've really enjoyed her readings. And they're timeless, so you can, be drawn to any of the readings on her channel at any time. And, it would be resonant with you if you feel drawn, right? Because this is your hologram. And I'm telling you about this. I'm passing along some information. And if there's something in you that goes, oh, I should probably check out that reader too, right? Because you resonate with me in some way. Whatever it is, you are drawn to, or you're willing to put your time and focus on this video. And I'm offering you something that resonates with me. And if you resonate with me and you feel like you might resonate with that reader, by all means, please go check it out, because she really is worthwhile. And there's years worth of readings on her channel for free. And she also has a Patreon channel, which I did subscribe to for a little while. But I stopped because I just kind of wanted to step away from the energy that she was always kind of updating me on. It was a person that I outgrew the situation that I was learning about through her nuanced readings over the years. But it was very valuable in helping me do that over the years. So, and a lot of these things, because we are fractals, are repeating in other people, right? Like, other people can sometimes live out an aspect of a certain relationship dynamic too. So that's why this works. Yeah. I'm pretty excited that I got my Ninja Creamy today. Have you heard about the Ninja Creamy? I'm freezing the pints so that I can make ice cream tomorrow out of bananas and strawberries. I did a lot of research on this. I'm looking at the box. That's why I'm talking about it. It was just delivered today. And it was a nice little splurge that I did because I thought instead of juicing, sometimes in the summer I'll want a cold treat. And this is a way to kind of make a very healthy treat. It's just bananas and strawberries. They're already sweetened. Although I did do a batch that I added a tablespoon of maple syrup to. Because I am planning on sharing this with my family members as well. I bought some disposable pints so that I could deliver them to my family members because I had to justify buying this machine. It was a costly investment, but if I can get my family members eating healthy treats as well, then that's great. I'll just be the creamy fairy. I don't know if that's a good title for me. You can tell I'm really tired. All right, we'll do another reading soon, but I did want to elaborate on the fractals and the mirror concept and why it's so pertinent when we know the nature of what we are and who we are. And also it works likewise on the fact that we can do a general reading and you can be drawn to energy, and it's because this fractalized kind of state that we're all in, we're reflecting each other, and it's what you're reflecting that matters, and that's where all the gold, and that's where your power is. And we give it away when we play victim to somebody else's energy. We give away our power when we act like we need to control other people. You're literally giving away your power. It's much more powerful to just sit in your own strength than to use all your energy trying to manipulate and coerce somebody. It's very juvenile to do so. It's very if you've heard me talk about Hermes, you know that I love Hermes. I love Hermes' energy, and he is the trickster. I also really resonate with Loki. I'm quite a fan of Loki, and I'm really looking forward to season 2 on Disney Plus of Loki. And I plan on subscribing after the season's already up so that I can binge watch it, just like I did for season 1. So trickster energy, I get it. It's childlike, it's playful, but also when we looked at the dimensions, right, and we were talking about third dimension being very dense and where matter is, and then fourth dimension being the place where we kind of are outside of time and things are reflected right back to us so instantaneously. And then I talked about how analysis can get us stuck into the fourth dimension where we can't go up into being present, right? And that's what the trickster energy is. The trickster energy will never get up into the fifth dimension. Manipulation, coercion, playing with people's minds. It's just, it works in that one dimension, but not for anything really valuable. It's what it would be like. When if you were to be in a trickster energy, so you can imagine all you're doing is pinning your own blue ribbon on yourself. You're oh, I tricked them, ha ha ha. It's you can't even share it with somebody else that you're like that, because everybody will never trust you when they know you're like that. And then your relationships become crap and so on and so forth. So it's just a way to stroke your own ego, but you're in a little circle jerk of your own by doing it. There's nothing actually fruitful. There's nothing what better, are you bettering society? Are you contributing to the all? Are you working on anything with the win-win-win? No, you're literally running yourself in a circle and wasting your energy. So I would limit myself to it if it were me. I was talking a lot today about how important it is to not lie anymore. These things are going to slap you right back right now, anything. Lies are not worth it right now. And you don't have to take my word for it, because just try it and you'll know. And I gotta say, once I stopped lying, even white lies, life became easier. I know when I'm like authentic, it just feels free and nice. And there's no like stress, you know? It's so not worth it to lie and play games and run around in circles. When all of our energy could just be used to look at ourselves, to dig in, to find out who we really are, to disassemble an operating system that may have worked for us in the past, but that actually kept us stuck ultimately, and to upgrade and to raise our standards. And the other thing about the fractal is, I talked about how the astrology chart can show us the angle that we're looking at life through. And I did mention that I have the Hermes asteroid, which is conjunct my ascendant. So that would indicate that I am looking at life, before I alchemize that energy, I'm looking at life through the flavor of Hermes. Meaning, this mind that wants to figure things out, that's analyzing, that kind of knows how things fit together. So I had to alchemize that in the ways that it would limit me, in the ways that I could misuse it. Right? Because if I were to use that to harm people, to manipulate people, to get people to do what I want, which I, did in a very benign, innocent way before, because I could talk people into stuff. I didn't know it was because I had Hermes energy, but I could talk people into stuff. Even now you might feel it like in my energy sometimes, but I now am conscious of that energy, and so I can like consciously use that. But before I was totally unconscious of it, right? So I had to get my awareness onto it and 0 point it so that I would be above it, so that I wouldn't have to be manipulative and coercive with my energy towards people. Sorry, I just had to... Why does it look like there's a light on in my car? So in your astrology chart, if you have a planet or asteroid that's very prominent, right? Conjunct your sun, conjunct your ascendant, conjunct your MC, IC, DC, or Venus, Mars, Mercury, something like that. If something is conjunct one of those, then a lot of the things you're going to be alchemizing are those themes. So you can look at the mythology that's associated with those asteroids or those planets, and then you'll see those themes. And it's like, okay, those are the themes that you came to experience so you could alchemize them. So when you see it in the mythology, then you look at your life and you're like, oh yeah, I do kind of do that. Or, oh yeah, that played out in a much different way, but it did still play out, right? Like whether it would be like a asteroid that had a mythology about being unfaithful or being not believed or being greedy or being in poverty or whatever it is. Those asteroids have stories and energies associated with them, and you have them influencing your perspective. So you can look at the mythologies to actually help you alchemize energy if you're having a hard time seeing themes of things playing out in your own life. So there are some, if you look at the mythology and some of the most powerful ones that existed, these are powerful things to alchemize. So if you have a god or a goddess who had all this powerful energy and big influence, right? Their energy is still that big and that big influence. So imagine the power you gain by flipping that up into the alchemy. Now you're in that space where you have that whole range, and you're not a slave to it, and you have the bigger picture, the wholeness of who you are, which is all the other energies too. And now you're using your energy like a buffet that you can choose what you want to be and how you want to use it, you know? And to alchemize some of those bigger gods, those gods that existed in the mythology, is also to be an example of that having been done on Earth. So if we have somewhat, like, you know, the gods were always into incest. Like, also, that obviously needs to be alchemized on Earth. You have the gods that were into just rape or infidelity. That needs to be alchemized on Earth. So you become the example of alchemizing it. Sometimes you'll have to do it first, right? Be the one who acts out in that energy. But don't write yourself off there. You have a chance to redeem yourself at any time. Once you alchemize that energy, you can be free and above it. But you will live in the karmic pattern of it until you do so. So, yeah, some people could have some sort of urge that they're fighting against the whole time, and they have a coping mechanism in place where they'll fight against that instead of give in to the urge of something that they think that would be bad, right? But alchemize that energy, and then you won't be using all your resources to fight against your own self, right? Accept and love the part of you that was feeling these things. And you're right, that's wonderful when you can be strong enough to not act on things that will harm yourself or another. That's very wise. So be thankful that you did have the wisdom to know to do that, because that does make the journey a lot more pleasant, right? When you don't have to pay the consequences for all the things that you've done, because that will happen, right? You know that will happen. But you can redeem yourself without having to pay for the rest of your life. Right? It's not like God's going to say, oh, you're not redeemed until we slap you back first. No. The moment you realize that you've done something that you wish you didn't do, redeem yourself right then. Don't say, oh, I'm going to get paid back for it anyway. Damage is done. No, actually it's not. Because this is just energy. There's nothing in the energy that goes, oh, I gotta get him really quick before he redeems himself. No, you switch the energy. You're more powerful than it. You use your intention to direct it. So does this make sense? Let me know what you think. What's your view? What are you alchemizing? What's your fractal showing you? Are you having ice cream lately too?